Life lessons taught by his dad to encourage black coordinators and assistants who want to become head coaches in the NFL. What's amazing is the way Dungy found out about his father's past. Here's Tony Dungy in his own words.
I found out at his funeral in 2004. I knew my dad was in the service. I knew he had enlisted, and he never talked about being a Tuskegee Airman. And at his funeral, one of his good friends got up, gave a presentation and talked about him, and he said, hey, one of the proudest moments for us was when Will Dungy was in the Tuskegee Airmen. And I was like, what? he what? It amazed me, but it really made me proud to see the obstacles that they faced and the way that they felt like, hey, we're not only going to be as good, we're going to be better. We're not going to let anyone else define who we are. My dad was a Browns fan, and I didn't really know why until I studied the history and realized that Paul Brown reintegrated the National Football League. And I want to see Mike Tomlin win. I want to see the black quarterbacks do well. I think about my dad in 1952 walking to school in Arlington, Virginia, because he couldn't ride in certain sections of the bus. He couldn't teach certain schools in the D.C. area. One generation later, 2006, we win the Super Bowl. Now I'm getting invited to the White House, and I'm in the front seat of the first bus headed to see President Bush. And I owe it to my dad and all those Tuskegee Airmen and Dr. King and everybody who fought through that, because they wouldn't let us fail. And I can hear his voice in my head. Don't let other people define you. You do what you need to do. If you have to train yourself and be the best that you can be. And you might have to be better. Don't get mad about it, just be better.
So this hashtag, Fly Like Them, was created to help raise further awareness about the airmen. The theme, never let anyone or anything keep you from your hopes and dreams. Lucasfilm, the organizers of the hashtag, hope it will prompt people to take to social media to share how they've been inspired by the airmen in their everyday lives. The NFL, of course, has seen its share of veterans on the field over the years. Names like Alejandro Villanueva, Pat Tillman, Roger Staubach, Rocky Bleier, Chuck Bednarik, just to name a couple. We thank them and all the veterans for their service today. Let's get to Lamar Jackson, who appeared on the Rich Eisen show today, had some interesting thoughts on just why he thinks this Ravens offense hasn't always performed up to their standards this year. Let's hear what Lamar had to say.
You know, it's a lot of with schemes. You know, we're going against defenses. They calling out our plays, stuff like that. Like, they know what we're doing. So a lot of that, you know, sometimes, you know, stuff won't go our way if they beat us to the punch.
So you're hearing on the other side of the line of scrimmage the defense calling out your plays? That's what
they definitely do. Like runs, stuff like that. Watch out for this, watch out for that. Sometimes that's what's going on. So.
All right, so I realized throughout a season, especially up until this point, wipe that mouth off. Anyway, that people are going to know some of what you might expect from an opposing offense, right? Because they're watching the film. Dan, I'm going to start with you. That means Ryan has to keep that towel on his face for the entire time that you talk. Is this a real concern for the Ravens? What Lamar is saying, that the defense is calling out their plays?
Well, of course it is. I mean, we've been talking about it on this show. You know, like the Ravens offense has a lot of tendencies to it. First of all, where do they like to throw the football the most? To the middle of the field. We've highlighted that. Who do they like to throw to the most? The tight ends, Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown. Really, they're the only two guys that they'll throw it to. If you look at this offense, they're super predictable on first down. I mean, they call runs like, 65% of the time on first down. And they're only averaging about 3.5 yards a carry on first down. They're really good on running it second or third down, but when you have these tendencies that become predictable on offense, that's an issue in the NFL. I'd say there's three things you don't want to be in the NFL as an offense. Stagnant. You have to be moving before the snap. Particular. You can't be, and that's what he's talking about with, you have to be multiple, right? You have to be multiple in your formations and your tendencies. And the last thing is predictable. You know, if you watch great coordinators, Sean McVay, Sean Payton, guys that we go, Arthur Smith, that are great play callers, they're unpredictable. You don't know what's coming, and the Ravens don't have that on offense right now, and they haven't all year.
I'm gonna tell you what, man. This day, I am glad I got to be on NFL Live. Get Up, Dan Orlovsky, and NFL Live, Dan Orlovsky, they are two different people. That Dan Orlovsky, no, he won't say nothing bad about a quarterback. Listen, Marvin Lewis coaches at Arizona State now, and so I saw him, and he always asked me. He was like, "Hey, man, every time we pass the ball, you were always in the deep middle where you were supposed to be." He's like, "But we'll give you the same type of formation, and you'd be standing right at the line of scrimmage when we handed the ball off." I'd be like, "Yeah, because I studied film all week. I understood the tips and tendencies, and I knew who would let me know what." That's football. And if somebody's saying alert run, it's because I have a formation where it's an 80% tendency that you're going to run the ball. It don't mean that you are, but here's a problem. If you get nervous because I say it, then that's on you. Because if you study football enough, and especially if you're a good team, right? Like, you know what I knew? I knew when I was little and I watched Mike Tyson fight, he was going to go low here, he was going to go right, left, and he was going to come up with the hook. I knew that. The person he was fighting knew that, but they couldn't stop it, because that's what happens when teams are really good. You get predictable. What happens is, though, you can't start to use that as a crutch, right? Last week, John Harbaugh comes out and he says, "I told Lamar he's going to have to use different things like his mind, his arm, and do all this stuff." And now Lamar is saying we're predictable. They got to stop doing this, pointing fingers, and just start playing football. We didn't hear this last year.
It's so much I could say right now,
say
because
it.
I've been
Say
trying
it.
to tell y'all this before the damn season started. Evolution. Figure out ways to be creative. Incentivize your quarterback. Incentivize your receivers. Find things you can do to keep people off schedule. Look at Kansas City. Look at Kansas City. We know Kansas City can go line up, they can run the same plays, and people can know what's coming. But every damn week on this show, Dan Orlovsky shows me something that Andy Reid is doing or Eric Bieniemy has been doing that other teams hadn't seen. That's a part of the league too. RC, I get what you're saying. All three of us, we sit on here, we study football when we play, we study it now, we look at film, we see tendencies now. But the bottom line is this. You do know what the Ravens are doing. Like, you and I and Dan could put together a defensive game plan. Now, to your point, can you stop it? That's a whole different animal. That's big fellas moving other guys and running backs making dudes miss and Lamar being a super athlete. But this offense is vanilla. It's no creativity. And every team they play is going to know what's coming. And I've been telling y'all that they need to evolve in their offensive plans.
Yeah, and you guys also said on this show they needed to pick up another weapon. Go ahead real fast.
Here's
Dan.
the thing, RC, that I would dispute with you. Yeah, you might know it's going to be a run, but when you know it's going to be a run, following the tight ends to the outside in a zone read set, like, that's really simplified. And that's my thing with Baltimore right now is they've got a ton of predictability in their offense. And you might know it's pass, but if you know it's going to be pass in between the hashes to Mark Andrews, of course you're going to be able to play that better. And that's what Lamar's talking about right now. They're too predictable with what they do, and they're too predictable with who they're doing it with.
I just think it's interesting that Lamar said it publicly
offense
too.
Was predictable.
You can't come.
Triangle offense was predictable.
You can't say
We
that
got
because
six
it's the greatest
rings.
of all time.
All right,
I knew what the triangle offense was going to do.
here's one thing.
Sorry, Laura.
Mark Ingram, don't be sorry. You can do whatever you want. Mark Ingram was back at practice today, though, which is a good thing for them. And we talked to him earlier this week. He said he really does feel like he's coming back from that ankle injury. New on NFL Live, Adam Schefter's got some news. What do you got?
Well, moments ago, Laura, the Cincinnati Bengals claimed former first-round draft pick Takk McKinley off waivers from the Atlanta Falcons. And right before the trade deadline, the Bengals made a move dealing Carlos Dunlap to the Seattle Seahawks. And now they help fill that spot by claiming Takk McKinley off waivers from the Falcons. They're hoping that he can come in and provide some pass rushing help. Former first-round draft pick did not